Hi, everyone. Welcome back to From This Corner TV. I'm Marilyn Dayton, your host. And I have a co-host this week. Derek Brito is back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back.
I'm so glad you're here. Now, 2 weeks ago, we did an interview with some people from Safe Futures. And I hope you were able to see that show. And tonight, it's part 2. We mostly talked about the organization and women and children. Tonight we're going to talk about the men involved, and because, as we said last time, men are also abused, as well as animals. We talked about that too. So everyone has that experience, unfortunately. So we have Melva O'Neill back with us. I'm so glad
Marilyn.
that you're back with us. And we have a very special guest, Mike Bibelow.
Thank
Mike,
you, Marilyn.
thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know you're not feeling all that great tonight, so feel free to take a drink of water whenever you need to.
Okay, thank you.
I think he has Lyme disease, to tell you the truth. We've all been there, done that. Okay, so Melva, will you remind our viewers who Safe Futures is?
Sure, Marilyn. Safe Futures is a domestic violence sexual assault agency based in New London, but we cover all of southeastern Connecticut. We've been doing this work since 1976 when we started as a hotline, and have expanded our services to meet all of the needs of the victims that we work with.
And the name change. You started out as
the Women's Center of Southeastern Connecticut.
Yes.
And up until about a year and a half ago, we stayed with that name until we realized that we were having a lot of conversations, and I think missing a lot of opportunities to help individuals because the name the Women's Center kind of put up some boundaries. So if you were a teenager and you were passing by maybe our booth or passing by our agency, or someone mentioned us, you wouldn't think that we would have any services for you. But we do. We have a lot of educational services, and we also do counseling with teenagers as well as adults. If you were a man who was living in an abusive situation, you would pass by our table, or you wouldn't think of calling the Women's Center if you were looking for assistance, right? So it really, what we realized is that it really hindered our ability to reach out to other individuals besides women. And so after a lot of deliberation, and with the help of community members, we came up with the name Safe Futures, because it really reflects all of our programs and the scope of the work that we do. And it offers hope
It
to
does.
people.
It does.
So.
Now, one thing that I'd like to do is read again the description of Safe Futures as I did 2 weeks ago. They save lives, restore hope, and change the future. And that says a lot.
I love that.
And it helps nearly 6,000 women, children, and men in southeastern Connecticut impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault by providing free, confidential, and life-saving services. And we talked quite a bit about the different services that you have. And can you just kind of give us the headlines of what we talked about 2 weeks ago?
So we do a lot of work, individual work with clients. So people who are victims or survivors of domestic violence or sexual assault. And we do that in a number of ways, whether it be you're working with one of our court advocates in Norwich or New London Court, or you are coming to seek some safety counseling and some crisis intervention with one of our advocates, or maybe you stayed in our safe house, or have been taken the opportunity to participate in our transitional living program, where you have up to 2 years, where you can live and stay in a regular apartment with our supportive services while you put your life back together. And so that's for moms and families. And another important piece that really, again, when we were under the name of the Women's Center, you wouldn't think about is our primary prevention programs, which are really geared toward working with young people from the, about second grade all the way through high school. And we are helping them develop good relationships. We are helping them understand what is a good relationship, what is a bad relationship, how can we develop respect for ourselves and each other, and how can we develop empathy skills. And so that was a key component in being part of that name change, is that we wanted to be able to capture that, because it's so important. If you grow up in a household where there is abusive behavior, you're twice as likely to become someone who may exhibit those kind of behaviors yourself. Plus, it's difficult to navigate that situation. Very, very difficult. So we consider our work in the schools and these kind of programs very important, as well as the work that we do with the children who come to live with us.
And I agree. And last time we talked about the programs, about going into the school system,
I
such
love
as
that.
Groton.
That's beautiful.
And it's just so, and I told a little story about when I was 7 years old, I learned how to count to 5 in Japanese, and I never forgot it. And when you are young, you just absorb things like a sponge, and it can change your behavior for the rest of your life with what they have to teach you. And it's just so important to get those programs in the schools.
I was curious, as a result of the name change, have you seen an increase in younger people, males, seeking help because of the difference in the name? Has that resonated with people who might actually be seeking help?
I think it might not, it might be the name change does help, but also part of that promotion of the name change and the reason that we changed that name does certainly help as well. I know that recently, just in the conversations I've had and the different trainings that I've done with some of the local other nonprofit agencies, that there are a lot of teens calling to get some assistance, whether it's in a school setting or an individual teen calling, or I'm working with another social service agency who says, hey, we have a teen that we would like you to start working with. So, and I don't even think a lot of the social service agencies knew that we did work with the teens. So I do think that it has made a significant impact.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. And I'd like to ask Mike a question.
Yes.
Now, you, during the name change ceremony, I noticed that you were in the video saying that you are a big supporter of Safe Futures. And tell us your story, how you came to learn about the organization or what you do with it.
Okay, well, I first heard of the organization when I was in college, and Melva came to speak to the class, and they were having us do outreach programs in the community. And because of my experiences as a child, being brought up in a home where I experienced domestic violence, it really sunk into my heart, and I just really wanted to be able to give back to an organization that I saw was helping people go through the types of things that I did as a youth. So.
And so your relationship with Safe Futures involves what? What did you do with them?
Well, as much as I can in my busy schedule, I try to volunteer, doing different things. I help with the children, watching the children, so that the women who were at the safe homes could actually go to counseling meetings and things like that. My daughter and I would actually volunteer together and help with that. Different fundraisers I've been involved with, and just little steps along the way as much as possible. One of the things that I tried to do when I found that they needed more help with the volunteer services, I tried to involve the church I go to and get more people involved, and that seems to be pretty successful.
It's very successful, and Mike he's being a little bit humble, but he came, I went to speak to his class, and he came and started helping out. He became certified, so he's gone through our domestic violence sexual assault certification program, so he could work the hotline or work with individuals as a crisis counselor if he so wished to. He did a long stint doing childcare, and is one of our ambassadors because he helps other people get involved with the agency. He talks about our agency. He gets people to come to our Power of Purple tours all of the time. The church, he mentioned, a number of people have come to the tours to see what we do, and also have gotten involved in a number of other ways. So he's a true ambassador for our agency.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that's
Awesome.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Speaking of tours, you do have tours occasionally.
We do have tours. And they're not tours when, usually when an agency says, oh, come and we'll give you a tour. And they're talking about, basically a tour of their buildings and a tour of their facilities. But what we're talking about is a tour of our mission. So what is it that we do on an everyday basis? Why is it important that we're here in your community? Takes 1 hour of your time to come to one of our Power of Purple tours. We hold them twice a month, every Thursday morning and every second Thursday of the month and every fourth Monday of the month in the evening. And if anyone is interested in coming and taking part of the tour, you can go to our website and we'll have dates posted about that.
And the website, if Karen and
Is-
Chris can bring that up for safefuturesct.org.
SafeFuturesCT.org, right.
And, okay. I want to talk to you for a second
Yes,
now.
yes, thank you.
Kimberly was with us
Yes.
2 weeks ago on our show for Safe Futures. And is it because of Kimberly that you got involved? She said that part of your business is giving back.
Right.
Now tell us what you think of this organization and what you've learned about it.
Well, you mentioned part of our business is giving back, and when we first organized, we recognized that the charitable part has to be there. I mean, giving back is part of the foundation. And it's kind of interesting how I came to know about Safe Futures, which was then the Women's Center. I used to do photography pretty regularly. I don't do it so much now, but I'm going to get back to it.
Good. He's good at that.
But I had an image that was of a friend and her two daughters that I had taken on a local beach. And it was from behind, so they were kind of walking down the beach. You couldn't identify them. And she gave me authority to, sell it or do whatever I wanted to do with the image. And I just felt weird benefiting, financially from someone I know. It wasn't like it was a random person that didn't know their photo was taken. So I said, you know what? If anyone purchases this photo, I'll donate the proceeds to the Women's Center. And I just said that, and it was actually posted beneath the photograph. And Emma, who was on the show earlier, or last week, she somehow found out about the photograph and she contacted me. I had not spoken to anyone at the agency, and I didn't know Emma prior to that, but we've had a friendship ever since, and my wife and I have been constantly involved in one way or another with the Women's Center, now Safe Futures, since then. And what it means to me is a second chance for people who are in desperate need of help. And I grew up in an environment where there wasn't so much physical domestic violence, but there was a lot of mental things going on. There was a lot of alcoholism, abusive language, and one of the things that I know a lot of kids probably suffer from, and they wouldn't even think of it as being abuse, but some kids, and I'm speaking from my own experience, but I know a lot of people must deal with this, is, we know a lot of children are not planned. They kind of happen. And, when parents unwittingly make you aware that, you weren't planned, and, so then you kind of grow up feeling like a burden.
Yeah.
And, you kind of have that sense of, not thinking that you deserve anything, and, the world's a lonely place in a lot of cases. But I know there's a lot of cases that are worse where people are physically abused on top of maybe dealing with that as well. And I see Safe Futures as a place where, you know, not only children but women and men also, you know, who might be those, you know, damaged little boys who, you know, became abusers, you know, and just somewhere where people can get help on many levels. And just to hear Melva speak of the programming that's going on in the schools, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful because
It is.
young adults, you know, male or female, may be in a situation where they don't even know it is abuse. They just think that's the way it is, you know. Or, you know, the guy is thinking, oh, I love her, and he feels like he has to control her, and she's thinking he loves me, so, you know, I better do what he wants. But they have no idea that this is an abusive and, you know, potentially dangerous situation. So I'm very excited about learning more and being involved in that training, going into the schools and
Wonderful.
being a
Wonderful.
part of the young people and having them see the bigger picture. And it helps so much hearing it from somebody they maybe can relate to,
Yes.
you know. And I mean,
Absolutely.
you guys know I retired from corrections, and I see a lot of the end result, you know. And believe it or not, that environment can be a pit stop for people to learn more about who they are and maybe change their
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
And for some people, even going through that experience doesn't change what's been instilled and ingrained in them,
Right.
you know, so.
Right, and like I said, you know, one of the wonderful things about those programs, you were saying somebody, you know, they get to talk to somebody that they trust.
Right.
And so one of the wonderful things about our Violence is Preventable, or VIP program, is that these are not one-time sessions. This is a number of sessions with a small group of students.
Yes.
Not a whole grade of students, but a small group of students where you can develop that relationship and you can build some trust, and you really get to talk about, you know, and help the kids think about, well, why did I just do that? Whether it's a bullying behavior or
Right.
they're in a dating relationship, but what was it that really made me do that? Is it because of they really believe that that's, you know, maybe that's how one of their parents behaves and they get what they want? Or is it because in this society, this is how a young man is supposed to behave? He's supposed to be aggressive, and women are supposed to be submissive, even in 2014. You know, but we get them to think about those things, and while we're at it, we're also thinking about how, if they behave in a certain way, how that impacts other people as well as themselves,
Right.
and how they can maybe not watch someone be bullied, but how can they help that person who might be being picked on, rather than just being a bystander.
Exactly.
And you know, influencing the young and helping them head in the right direction and understand that they have choices,
Right.
I think is just so key. And maybe keep them out of the correctional institutions,
Yes. Yes.
and keep them from destroying someone else's life or their life. It's very key, very key indeed.
One of the things that I think stands out for me, being a man and involved in this this effort, is, you know, a lot of young men, to hear a female try to explain to them something that they might be doing wrong, they shut down. But
Oh, yeah.
they can actually relate to another man saying, listen, that behavior is not something that is becoming of a young man or someone who deserves respect, or, you know, how you whatever way you would choose to approach it. But I think having that gender identity helps. It goes a little bit further, I believe.
Well, what I see is having a role model for the children, to someone that tells them the right way to think, you know, the right way to handle a bully and that kind of thing. It goes also to man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I don't understand men. They don't understand me. So men have a better chance of bonding and understanding and listening to one another. And I see that that's one of the roles that men can play in this organization.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But the importance here that our viewers need to understand is that violence is all around us. You know, we read about it in the paper, you hear about it in your family sometimes, and rather than shut it out, not talk about it, which is what I did for 30 years, you need to try to figure out what to do and to make it better, because we all deserve a better life. And we also need to think about not just how can I help myself, how can I help someone that needs help, but how can I help an organization that has a good chance, a really good chance of making a huge difference. And those are the kind of organizations I want to have on this show,
Yes.
because we need to make a difference in a lot of places and in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the Emma that you were talking about, who was with us at the last show, that's Emma Paulsier Ray,
Yeah.
and she's quite wonderful. She's sitting right there, so I have to say that. No, I'm just kidding. She is sitting right there. But this organization, when I first learned about it, I learned about it through the Women's Network.
Right.
And
So many people from the Women's Network are involved with our agency.
quite a few of them. The Women's Network, Southeastern Connecticut Women's Network, is a business women's organization, and founded by Millie Devine, who's divine. She really is. She's wonderful.
Perfect name.
Yeah, perfect name. And this organization selected one charitable organization, one service organization that they were going to align with as in a partnership. And it's been working very well.
It's been working absolutely wonderfully for us over the past number of years. We have had a really strong relationship with the women who are involved in the Women's Network and the different ways that they get involved and support us at the agency. So it's been a very
And there's
good
the new one, the Pathway to, what is it? Pathway to,
to Safe Futures is the endowment campaign. Is that
Yeah.
what you're right? So Millie Devine started an endowment campaign for Safe Futures. So again, Millie Devine, who is has been with the Women's Network
from day one.
from day one, and is so passionate, not only about working with women and helping women become what they want to be, but in engaging with some community organizations, Safe Futures being one of them. So she has always had a passion for our agency and just came to us with this wonderful plan about starting an endowment for our agency. She's a very generous woman. And this has been, we're in the beginning stages and it's already been quite successful, so really excited about
That's
that.
awesome.
So guess
Yeah.
what? Before we take a break, I think it's a good idea to, Millie, if you're watching, we want you on our show. Okay?
Hi, Millie.
For a lot of reasons.
Millie.
Okay, we do have to take a break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt. Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
And we're back with Safe Futures. And before the break, we were talking about Melanie Devine, and yes, we're going to get her on the show. Because I just love the direction that this alliance is taking between Southeastern Connecticut Women's Network and a wonderful organization, Safe Futures. I just think it's terrific. And once again, that's how I found out about this organization, and wished I'd had it back in the early 80s to help me. But today we're talking about men, okay? So we're going to answer these questions. What does it mean to be a man against domestic violence? And what can I do to reduce violence against women? And reduce violence against other men, too.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that. Melva.
So we have, historically, when people think about domestic violence, they are thinking of it as a women's issue. And yes, the majority of domestic violence happens between male and female, and it's usually male is the abuser, female is not. But we know that men are also abused. As a matter of fact, last year, about 25% of the individuals that we worked with were male. That does include children, though. So we do have men as clients, but we also have men now who are working with us to end the violence from happening. We have done 19 years, this is our 19th year of having a Men Against Domestic Violence campaign. It has been a radiothon on CTY and the Hall Communications, other stations that has run in February almost every single year for the past 19 years. This year, the campaign is running a little differently. It is currently running on their radio stations, WCTY and the other Hall Communications, but they are having stories, sharing stories, and also will sharing information about a webpage that we have set up for the Men Against Domestic Violence campaign. So if you listen to them, or if you go to our Safe Futures website, or you can go to www.againstviolence.org, and you will get some more information about this year's Men Against Domestic Violence campaign. During those campaigns, in the past, we have had a lot of men who came to the radio station and talked about why they get involved with this crusade, if you want to call it that, against domestic violence. Additionally, we have a number of other programs. We have an Engaging Men's Group at Safe Futures. We have a 10 by 10 campaign that's coming up, which is a training that we'll talk about a little bit more. And we have a gentleman from the Coast Guard Academy who has been doing an event called the Twilight Trail Run this is his 7th or 8th year on his own with his wife, putting the event together, and then for 7 years before that, working with other captains at the Coast Guard Academy to put on a run at Bluff Point. It happens this year. It will happen the Friday evening after Memorial Day. And it's about getting out, having fun, running, because we know a lot of people like to run, and building more awareness around the work that we do. So there's so many ways that we offer men to get involved, as well as, yes, let's talk about what does it take? What does it mean to be a man? And what does it mean to be a strong man? Does it mean you can bench press 500 pounds? Is that what it means? Or do you mean that you can sack somebody harder than the next guy on the football team, does it mean that you get all the girls because of your charisma and that's what it takes to be a man because you're, what does it mean? I think there's a lot of, for young men and for adult men, there's a lot of confusion about that.
Well, from a woman's point of view, I think a man's strength lies in his heart and how much love he can give and show. I love seeing a father with his brand new baby, or a grandfather with a brand new baby, or something like that. That, to me, is the strongest man in the world. Now, I'm just a woman, so what do I know? I'll tell you, it's, and I'm sorry, Chris, partner over there, bench pressing 500 pounds or more is not what I measure a man by. But I love you anyway. So, Mike, I would like to ask you a question.
Yes.
Now, you said that there was domestic violence in your home growing up. And when you heard Melva talking about, what you can do, how you can learn, how you can help, do you feel that there was, now was it your father who was the...
Yes, my father was the one who was hitting my mom, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And drinking heavily and all those things, yeah.
Was there a tendency, there was a strong tendency normally for the son to follow the path that the father had led. Now, did you see that violence and not like it so that it wasn't the way that you were going to be?
I was very young at the time, probably 5 years old. So, but I could remember many times that the violence happened, where I'd see my mom flat on the ground, where my dad had just knocked her down, or and at times my mom even sign fell down back there.
Yeah, it's okay.
Where my mom had broke glass over his head, and they fought, and so my memories pretty much linger in the most traumatic things. I can remember my mom holding me and crying and things like that, and so that's my biggest memories of that, and just the painful events of it, and then the separation, so they chose to separate, and I can remember my dad leaving and not coming back, and I remember the last conversation he had with me, even then when I was that young, what he told me, and so those memories are still in my mind, and just the pain of it all. Yeah. So I think that's when I heard Melva speaking and thought about the women that go through that and have to raise children on their own and even leave situations and the stories that you told of other people that had it even worse than I did. It just really made me think, yeah, I would like to make a difference there. I would like to, especially for the children.
Yes.
Because to see, like even just doing babysitting, the children, not babysitting, but childcare, they're all ages. That it makes me feel good that they can see an example of a person after they've been living in a home where there was violence that isn't violent. And I love being there with my daughter to give them an example of what a father and a daughter should be like, caring, and that that even instills hope in them, to see that it's not like it's always been like for me, or not just for myself, but the children themselves could think that this is what I have to look forward to, something new, or
Nice.
Did that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting here, and when we had Say Futures on before with Kimberly, and she kind of whispered in my ear that you're her hero, okay? But, that's another story.
Yeah.
I look at you, Mike, and I'm thinking, how wonderful this is. That is a strong man, okay?
Yes.
That is a role model that every young man watching and mature man could really learn from. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being
Yes,
you.
thank you for sharing that.
I
Well,
love
thank
what
you.
you're doing, and it means a lot. It really does to these young people that you're influencing. What a great role model.
And Marilyn, about 90% of domestic abuse, again, is male on female, but that doesn't mean that 90% of men are abusive. It's more like about 3% of men are abusive. So men who are not, men who are like Mike or like Derek, have such an important role to play. And although, you know, society may send a message that you need to be a different kind of person to be a true man, reality shows that you don't need to be that different kind of person.
That's right.
And one of the things that I can speak to personally is, you know, sometimes kids will grow up in households where there isn't a father figure, or they're in a situation where, you know, they might have a stepdad or someone who's there but isn't engaged, so they're not really learning anything from that person.
Right.
And you know, the old adage where it takes a village to raise a child. I totally understand that, because when I think back over my own lifetime and childhood experiences, I learned a lot from the people around me, and I kind of identified with certain people and other people. You know, I could recognize, okay, I don't want to be like that person. I like the way this person is. I want to be like that. So, you know, by having more men get involved and, you know, to be role models, you know, good, solid, you know, grounded men, that gives a child who maybe doesn't have that influence at home or, you know, in their community, someone to look to and say, I like that guy. I like how he is. I like how he treats his wife. I like how he treats his kids.
Right.
You know, I like how he talks, even though, you know, because some parents fly off the handle, you know, with their young children, because they get frustrated, and I've seen that happen. And you know, for a young male to witness someone in a stressful situation react calmly and lovingly,
Right.
that will, you know, that balance is created. So I think it's very important for men to be involved with children that may not be their own.
It just increases our capacity for good relationships
Yes.
so much. And while the two of you were talking, I was thinking about, what if you're the child who grows up with no one around you who's a good role model? I know, growing up in a similar situation, growing up in an abusive home, that there was not an adult man around me who was a positive role model for the young men or the young women. So growing up as a young woman and having this understanding about men in the world, your understanding about men is that you can't trust them. They're not trustworthy. They would never have your back. And so that is also extremely important. I know for me, as I got older and I started meeting men who were positive, that meant the world to me as a woman growing up, and to meet these men who really cared enough to come to our Engaging Men meetings, cared enough to go to the First 100 breakfast, cared enough to do childcare for us. That speaks volumes to not only the young men that you may be being a role model for, but the young women and the adult women who never knew anything else. Right. So, and I thank you both very much for doing that, you know, and for getting involved in all of these other things that we've been doing. I want to talk a little bit about the 10 by 10 campaign, which is a new campaign that was started by the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And really what it is, it's an opportunity for guys to talk to guys about why they feel they should be part of the solution to domestic violence. So, and you know, as Derek was saying before, that having someone to relate to, most of us, when it comes down to having those tough conversations, we want someone, whether we're going to a counselor or having a conversation with a group of women, for me, a group of guys, we want people we have similar circumstances with. We want people we can connect to, right? So it only makes sense that the best people to help men understand and why they should be part of the solution is other men, right? You want to have those conversations with other men. And so the 10 by 10 training, which is slated for April 1st at Connecticut College, starting at 7 o'clock, and you can go on our website, we'll have that posted, is an opportunity for men to learn more about how to get involved.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. You know, there's, I'd also like Chris or Karen to bring up the Men Against Domestic Violence picture again. I don't know if we showed that before or not. And there you go. It says, be a hero. I love that. Because as we're sitting here and talking, we're realizing that we have two heroes right here. Well, we have three.
Yes.
Because of Melvin, her work too.
Yes.
But
I agree. I agree.
but it just seems like men should be so much a part of this. And you're seeing that changing. And I think that's wonderful because, you know, accept your responsibility of who you are and what you can do to make a difference. I think every single person owes it to themselves to investigate who are you and what would you like to give back.
Absolutely.
And if you've got a story where maybe you didn't have a high level of abuse in your household when you were growing up, maybe your parents were just kind of toxic, and they just didn't relate to one another too well or to the rest of you, that's still kind of a form of domestic violence or abuse, emotional abuse. And to help our young people feel good about themselves, you know, it'll be a better country if we do. And the future will
It'll
be a
safer.
lot better.
It'll be a safer country.
Yes, much
Too.
safer country. Now this also, Karen or Chris, if you can show the sheet that says, what does it mean to be a man against domestic violence? That's it, yep, where to go.
Now you see it? Now you do.
And
Real
it
quick.
There it
talks,
is.
there you go. There you go. Accept and own your responsibility, but educate and re-educate. You know, and examine and challenge. Examine yourself, challenge yourself. And educate yourself on what's out there. What organizations are out there that you feel that you would like to be a part of. And through that organization, re-educate others. This seems to fit all of that. And I just think it's a wonderful thing. So now you talked a little bit about the Twilight Trail Run and the 10 by 10. Now why call it 10 by 10? What does that stand for? Do you know?
So basically, you know, part of the training is that once you've gone to this training and taken part in it and had some conversations with men, the idea is to pass that attitude on. So if 10 men go to a training and they reach 10 other men, right?
Okay.
And that's why they call it a 10 by 10. So we're just asking you to share this with 10 other people. I hope you will share it with every man or every young man.
There
that
you go, Derek.
Yes.
That sounds good for
See.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yes.
you're really good at sharing good things with other people.
Yeah.
Because you share things from your heart.
Yes. Yes.
And
Heart-centered, yes.
yes, heart-centered. And you know that has a very high influence on other people when they can tell when
They
it
can
comes
tell.
from your heart.
Sincerity, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so when you changed the name to Safe Futures, there were maybe 25%, pretty much, that you were.
No, I think we've seen that at the time that we changed it to Safe Futures. I think the numbers were lower.
Okay.
So the number of males that we were working with at that time was lower. I don't remember exactly how much lower, but it has increased. And again, remember that those numbers do reflect that we are the young male children that we're working with.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
when we're housing moms, we're housing their male children too. So those numbers do reflect that. But we do. I want to be clear that we do see men who are coming in who have been living in an abusive relationship, and you know, our vision of masculinity in this country says that even if you were living in that situation, you would never admit it, right? Because you can't be a man. I mean, what are you, a wimp?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I will not use some of the other derogatory names that would be used against you if you were to admit that you were living in a situation where maybe your partner hit you or spit at you or was just mean to you all the time or had total control of all the finances or anything like that. That is because in our world, men are the aggressors, right? And our whole society speaks of this and what we expect of our sports players or what we revere them for. Or the man in the commercials who is holding the beer, and the right beer will get you all these women, and that's what life is supposed to be about for them. It's supposed to be that you're very aggressive, mean, and your main goal is to get tons of women. I mean, this is what I see when I'm looking at all of these things around. So, for young men, these are the messages that they're getting. These are the images that they're getting, and this is what they have to deal with. And people will not think I'm a man if somebody says something to me and I don't clock them, or if I'm not the cool guy who maybe pushing people around or sucking people hard on the football field or calling everybody derogatory girl names. I was thinking earlier when I was in I took a restroom break and I was thinking about how many times did you hear somebody say, "Stop being a guy"?
Oh, yeah.
No, we always hear, "Stop being a girl."
Or you're such a guy.
Yeah, who says, "Oh, you're such a guy"?
I've said that.
That's it,
I'm
but-
guilty. I've said it a couple times in my life. Yeah. Only kiddingly.
But usually, if you're messing up on the sports in the sports arena,
Right.
you're being
Yeah.
a girl or some
That's
other
right.
label.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put down your
that-
purse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, put down your purse.
Oh, we've heard
What do you
them
got
all,
your
yeah.
skirt on today?
Yeah.
But it's true, and so we have this vision, and that's what they have to live up to a lot of times. So it makes it really difficult.
Oh, you don't even want to know what they say in the prison environment.
No, I don't think we.
Yeah.
No,
This
we
is a
don't.
family
That's a
radio
different
show.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's a different show.
Well, there are a lot of tough cultures out there.
Yes.
But in 2014, we're supposed to be smart enough to realize more equality in women. We're supposed to appreciate the masculinity in a woman when it comes out, what we call masculinity in a woman, and femininity in a man. Like you're feeling your soft side or you're feeling your tough side, however you want to word it, because this is not 1600 BC, okay? And what you're talking about with what our culture has been teaching these young men sounds like 1700 BC. It's a book I'm reading right now. And it's like, gosh, that's kind of today. And when we talk about people like Millie Devine, who are empowering women, we're not trying to belittle men. We're not trying to do
Absolutely
that at
not.
all. We're trying to show that we can all be strong in different ways.
Absolutely.
And without that,
And we can all be gentle
and we can
in
all be
different
gentle.
ways as well.
And I have my gentle moments too. But this has been really very good to have you here,
It's been a
our
pleasure.
heroes.
Yes.
And it's wonderful. We need more people like you,
Yes.
more men to face the fact that it's okay to be a good guy and reach out and help other guys be good guys,
And I
This
think
is-
part of that is there are a lot of other good guys, but they might not step out and talk to other good guys about being a good guy or checking
Yeah.
their behavior a little bit. Like I said, 3% are abusive, not the other 97%.
I think most people in society, when they see something going on that may be, domestic violence or an abusive situation, most people don't want to get involved. They're like, they turn and, they don't interject. They don't, that there's a handful of people who will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could be smaller than the person who is being the aggressor in the situation, but they don't think about that. They
Yeah.
just,
Right.
they see something wrong and they get involved. And, you know, I would encourage all the men who are watching this program to think about those situations and, you know, think about the young men in your life and try to set a good example, because you're affecting future generations. You might be dealing with one child, but what that child goes on to do is going to affect people down the line. So it's very important. You know, if each one taught one the steps to take in being a better person, I think we'd all have an impact.
Amen.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you, Derek,
Yes,
beside me
always
here.
good to be here. Thank you.
And Mike, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And thank
Yep.
you for sharing your story.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for doing what you're doing. It's a wonderful thing.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
And Melva, as always, thank you
Yes.
for being here.
Thank you, Marilyn. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for doing this.
Well, it's my pleasure. Gosh, we sound good, don't we? Okay, these last few minutes, I'm going to share with you our upcoming shows so that you can be ready. We're going to have a special, okay, here's an interesting thing. Chris Anino, whom you've seen on camera, and today he's behind camera and in the control room. He is going to be attempting a world record, and we think he's going to be doing it with a broken foot. So we'll see how that goes. But the interesting thing is that this is a new category world record, so he doesn't have to go very far. So hopefully he will listen to his body and not hurt himself more. But we're proud of who he is, you know, because he's just going to give it his best try.
Everybody pray
And-
for Chris.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
know what? We're going to celebrate it. However far he can do it, we're going to celebrate it. And we're also going to film it. And so on April 9th and 10th, we're planning to have a special show with Chris Anino. And I'm going to interview him. And we're going to talk about his world record. Chris, you didn't know this, did you? He's an amazing guy, and I want you to hear his story. And we'll fix the sign before then, too, I promise. In the middle of April, we're hoping to have Holly Potter from Everything Zen and Ann McPhail, health coach, as our guest for our Healthy Living segment.
Nice.
And then Chris will be back again with more unique sports and special guests. Now, there are some upcoming events, and they just showed you our website. You can go to our website and click on any of our show links that are up on YouTube, in case you missed any of them. There are some events coming up. Tom Santos has let us know about his Craft and Author Show. There's his phone number. That's on April 12th. There's also, and that's in Pawcatuck. There's also the 7th Annual Autism Speaks Yukon, TKE, not easy to say, 5K. Say it all together real quick. Walk, run. I like walk runs. I don't run. I could walk, though. On Sunday, April 13th, and that's in Storrs, Connecticut. And there's a website for that, which is events.autismspeaksu.org, and there it is. Wonderful. So once again, my thanks from these people from Safe Futures, volunteers, staff, people who care and are involved. And I'd like you to put up their website one more time, because there's a wonderful video that actually Mike and I are in. And you got to see it. And it's on their About page. And Melva's on there too.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I forgot about
So
that.
go to their About page and watch that video. It's got some wonderful stories on it of people that have been helped by Safe Futures, people that are supporters of Safe Futures, and which is what we all should be. We should all support this wonderful organization.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yep.
Marilyn.
So we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank you.